Warren Buffett's 2013 letter in the middle of page 21 made a prediction that in the next decade you'll see lots of really bad news about pensions. Given recent events like COVID-19 and that 2023 is 2 years away, would Mr. Buffett like to comment or revise his 2013 prediction?
In a very limited, a terrible way. COVID improves the pension position because the more, it's, you have less pensioners, but the pension situation is terrible in a great many states. It's not so bad at the corporate level, and there's some multi-employer plans obviously that have got problems. But basically, it's a terrible problem for the states, and of course some states, and states are going to go to Washington now and say, we all want to get a lot of money because we had these terrible things happen to us during the pandemic, which they did, but some of those states have enormous pension deficits, and they'll come again if they get a check once. It may turn out to be a federal obligation de facto or something than a state situation. It has not gotten better. It has not gotten better at all, and obviously, and to a certain extent, the pension managers get more and more desperate as interest rates go down. So they'll listen to almost anybody that promises them. They've always had that tendency anyway, but they'll listen to people that promise them that they're going to, one way or another, solve their problem for them, and that isn't going to work. So it's a big, big, big problem. And of course, the real problem is, let's just take a hypothetical state that has a huge pension deficit and maybe even has a cost of living factor in it, which is going to really be a killer. And you can move if you're an individual. Charlie won't move to save that $500 million. He was not going to move to Nevada or someplace. But you can move if you're an individual to some degree, particularly if you're rich and old and retired. And you can actually take away an asset from that kind of environment and give it to another state that doesn't really need it as much. So you'll get adverse selection over time. But if you're a company and you put a plant there, you can't move the plant in 5 or 10 or 20 years. So as the taxable base of individuals falls down, simply because people select out of being a part of the population, you can't select out very well as a corporation. So you have to be very careful and think a long time before you go into some state with a huge pension deficit and a declining population, because you're going to be the last man left, and the pensions won't go away. And I don't think, anybody with a short-term outlook doesn't worry about that. Just get me past the next election, and I'm all right on that one. But we don't want to be. We're not going to stay a plant that's going to be around for 50 years in some place where the population gets halved and the richer part gets cut dramatically, even more dramatically, and we still got a valuable plant there, and we got to keep operating, and we're going to, one way or another, it's not going to be a good place to be.
That's a good answer, Warren. It reminds me of my old Harvard law professor who used to say, "Let me know what your problem is, and I'll try and make it more difficult for you."